So, welcome to the part three, which is the final episode of Man of a Chatter.
What's the
What's the
matter?
matter?
There you go. So, we've got this supervisor special, hence why we're all wearing supervisors. And there's a few things that we kind of want to clear up from the previous episode. Now, some of you may have noticed the Visteners. Water spilling incident. Now, I profusely, can't say the word, apologise because the irony is I was stating there is no way on earth I was going to spill my drink, and then I threw it all over myself. So I just want to apologise to the gods out there, the executives, etc. And I will severely punish myself when I get home tonight. And then that's that, right? And we have also now got a new member of the audience participation, Niomi Wilkinson in the house. So, who's replaced Emma? But then Emma's over there because Jack's disappeared out of the audience. So,
Confusing, yeah.
one thing that I just want to kind of like carry on is from the end of the last episode, we were talking about this fitness to practice video recording, which for the Visteners, that is the thing that the students in the second year have to pass before we deem them suitable to be able to see real clients. And one thing I kind of want to clear up is like we were talking in the break about the fact that if somebody passes their fitness to practice, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're brilliant. It just means that they're good enough to go out there and start seeing clients where a lot of the real learning begins, right? So it's not us saying, yeah, you're amazing therapist. It's like we're saying you're at a stage where you won't do any damage, right? You're good enough to kind of like start growing and learning and developing with the help of supervisors, right? So that's just one thing, like I wanted to clear up. Now, Emma, you were talking about you are very, 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 very afraid of this assignment. So
Mr.
now we
Extrovert.
have Niomi with us, who's like teaches you on this module, right? Is there anything we can say or do to help?
I think I don't know, I'm just confused on what I'm feeling. Maybe I am frightened, maybe I'm scared, but like I just don't know. I think I'm insecure about my fitness to practice. I think that's actually what I'm feeling. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Because you said, like, oh, we deem them suitable, like, they might not do damage. But I don't know. Maybe I will do damage. And I guess, like, that's the whole point of having the supervisor, like, just to talk things through with like, our relationship with our clients and stuff like that. But I'm scared. I'm just scared. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't got anything to say because I mean, I can respond to that. I was scared
Yeah.
when I went out and saw my first client. I feel that's natural. And what I said to you earlier on is it just demonstrates that you really care and you're passionate, and that's a good thing. If you were going out not being scared, in the previous podcast I did, like one of the students was very, very confident, and but they did actually still say, "Yeah, I'm still nervous. I'm just confident." The other student was saying, "Well, I'm nerves first." So everyone has an element of nerves within this process, and that's natural. And I think that's actually a good thing because I think it was actually did Carl Rogers say that there should be two nervous people in the first in that first session.
Yeah.
So anyway, anyone else got anything to say?
I think about and I remember it very well and still feel it at times that we don't want to cause harm. We do not want to hurt anybody. I think it's very, very unlikely that you would cause harm because you are doing this because you genuinely care about the well-being of the other person sat in front of you. And they are going to be more nervous and more vulnerable and more upset. They've waited potentially weeks, if not months, to speak to somebody. They want to be heard. And if even if the nerves take over so much that everything goes out of your head, just being with somebody and doing the basics of active listening, empathy, really bringing it back to just being with them is enough. It doesn't have to be anything else. It can just be with them. Let them tell their story, be with them. And then then I think the nerves start to die down a bit when you get used to being in that room, and making sure we don't run over the time and things like that. All of those things start to naturally become like clockwork.
Yeah. And Charlie
Yeah.
said something that really resonated with me in part 2. Like that I keep on replaying in my head. Like, obviously, it is about me and the client's relationship, but at the end of the day, it is about them. Like, it's not really about me. And if I could just give them that space, that's what really matters. But I guess, I don't know. I think it just keeps on replaying in my head that I'm getting marked on this. And, like, even though however much I care about what I want to do and my relationship with clients and the client's, like, frame of mind, I don't know, just a little bit insecure on my ability to perform, I guess.
There was a couple of things in there, and equally, I don't think that. I feel like this is serious. And I'm not saying this is. So I'm just going to casually slide the supervisor off, but supervisors were always needed and a huge part of this. There was 2 things, wasn't there? That I like the readiness to practice, fitness to practice language, and that damage, no harm done. And there's that. What does that look like? I had a little bit of that, and that's so hard to articulate as well, because from each client, what you offer is going to vary. But again, hearing you say, because I care, I don't want to cause any harm, they're key qualities. That would be a concern if you didn't have any of that. And that doesn't necessarily just disappear if and when, because you will, pass that readiness to practice. There's always that element of trust in self and how you are in that therapeutic relationship of not causing any harm. And that's what we're looking out for. That's all part of the training, isn't it? What's going on for me, what's going on for them, etc. And it would be highly unusual on this module, and when students are due to submit the readiness to practice, for there not to be some anxiety and an element of self-doubt and questioning, especially for those that really care, which is nice.
Definitely. And you're not the first one that's come to us recently talking about how much they're, fretting and thinking they're going to fail the reflection rather than the recording, etc. This is kind of natural because it is important. And I always just think, just really focus on the fundamentals. And even if you're with that client and you're listening and understanding and you're just caring about them, just do that. Initially. I had a third year who said they had their first client, and this feels like, once again, I'm trying to plug up Tom's book, right? But he took Tom's book with him, and he had 15 minutes for his first client. And he just kind of read the first few pages, and he said, "Oh yeah, there you go. There's just some paraphrasing, some reflecting. Just focus on that," and that kind of just helped him calm himself down, and then he was ready for the client. So, do whatever works for you.
Yeah.
I remember I used to do all kinds of crazy things because I was always reading about power standing and ways to get yourself in a good state, and especially when I had back-to-back clients, and it was a Monday evening and I'd been at work all day and I had one client, and then it was something like 7:30, nearly 8 o'clock at night before my next client, and I would do things to put myself in a good frame of mind, ready for the next client. And sometimes I'd do some meditation and some breathing. Do whatever works for you.
Yeah. And on that note, I have a question for the supervisors.
Boom! Yes.
Bring it.
Because all the talk about anxiety and stuff like that, I don't know if you can share a story, but have you ever had a supervisee who's just come with so much anxiety with how I don't know if perform is the right word, but how they've had a relationship with a client that they're really anxious about how that client's left the room thinking, or maybe how they've performed with that client, and if they were really anxious about how they kind of responded to that client's the client brought to the session.
You got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a supervisee. Obviously, I'm not going to disclose exactly, but I think confidence, and I suppose that I would say that sort of inner critic was a very loud voice for this particular supervisee. And they did experience a lot of anxiety, a lot of kind of really, I suppose, tearing themselves down after particular sessions with certain clients. And it was one of the top things that we spoke about during our supervisions across years, really, and still we touch on it. But using the supervision to kind of help and talk through about actually how that inner world is after the session, and actually what in reality happened in the session. And it's about using supervision as well to kind of distinguish that, if that sort of makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Because when we feel anxious about something, I suffer from anxiety sometimes,
Yeah.
as you know, don't like microphone. But sometimes it can kind of skew what is reality and what we think our perception is. So in reality, the client that the supervisor is working with they've got a really good relationship, they're making really good therapeutic kind of gains within the work together. So actually in the sessions, it wasn't what the supervisor perceived outside of sessions. But I know that's a very specific example, but I suppose it just goes to see how sometimes, I suppose it's like that research with kind of Mick Cooper, wasn't it, about kind of what clients get out the sessions and what we see can sometimes be a little bit different.
Completely different. And there was an Irving Yell, I'm going to bang on about him again, book that was about that, where he had a client write up session notes and he wrote up session notes, and they'd meet up every 3 months and they never matched. What he thought was great, they didn't even notice. And he said that he didn't think was anything relevant. She really went with that, and it kind of really helped. So, and that word perception is so important. Your perception of the session might be, oh no, that wasn't very good. They'll go away and think, that's what I needed. Perhaps, yeah. So.
And sorry.
No, I was just going to say that for anxiety, for a supervisor I can think of, we used to focus a lot on kind of what anxiety is, how it affects your nervous system, what's actually happening in your body when that's happening, how we're becoming more reactive rather than rational in those moments. So what can we then do before you go into a session? So, like Nigel was saying, maybe some meditation, some breath work, some just something simple that you don't have to, you can't join a yoga class really, can you, before? But just something you can do very quietly on your own before you go, to kind of center yourself and ground yourself. And then debrief, the importance of reflection after the session, and debriefing with your supervisor or your placement coordinator or mentor, because, like Charlie said, the perception is very different, because anxiety promotes that kind of negative voice, that inner dialogue that's you only hear. The client will not have experienced that. And so if we start to see it for what it actually is, as opposed to what we're telling ourselves, and that's part of what supervision is. It's working with the supervisee and their process, and working also with what we understand to be the client's process as well.
And sorry, can I just jump here as well? And I think sometimes as well, this is where as supervisors, well, I should speak for myself, shouldn't I? But that's where we might also suggest as supervisors where personal therapy again can come in and kind of identify like reoccurring themes that are maybe coming up with clients, which it might be important to just bring that in and explore that a little bit deeper on that level.
Yeah. Okay, great. Some great answers there. Yeah.
Thank you.
How are you feeling now?
I'm just No, I don't know. No, I am feeling different. Thank you for that new information, and I'll sit and think with that. But I think you telling me that it's just like I have to get out of that head, and like the reminder that like what I perceive is completely different to what the client perceives, and I think that's the same with the recording session. Like, because that kind of reminded me that all the recordings that I have, they're just like, no, it's fine. Like, I thought that was really good, but then I'm sat here like, nah, I'm gonna bin that recording. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to sit with that by myself, I guess.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? Sorry.
Of course. Speak away.
I suppose if there's one thing, a piece of advice I could give somebody who is training to be a psychotherapist or a counsellor, it would be that you're looking at things with hindsight, and there's always things that we're looking back on that you can improve on. Me now, always. So that is a positive thing to do. But sometimes it can get away with us as well, where we're literally just tearing ourselves apart.
So. And that is a really, really good point. That looking back, because sometimes when you look back with hindsight, you can be very, very, very critical. And then, I'm thinking now about like that water incident. Why did I do that? And I am beating myself up over it. But it is so important, the fact that in the moment, you're just reacting and responding, and you're being intuitive the best you can. And you're not purposely making any mistakes. I don't even know why, because they're not necessarily mistakes.
Redirection.
Okay, thank you. Niomi, anything to add? Are you all right?
No, I feel like a lot's been said already, and I don't want to get into that. Like you said before, I need rescuing, and I'm like, I'm not going to rescue you, Emma. But it's that, like I said, it's that it's a little bit IFS, internal family systems for the Visteners.
Yeah, exactly.
Said it right. Yeah. But like that anxiety is there because you want to get it right, or it sounds like it anyway. You want to get it right, you care, and that's okay, isn't it? Like it is, it's doing a job for you. But it's that, like they were saying before, so that voice can get louder, that part can grow. So that moment of going, thank you, I know why you're here because this matters, but trusting yourself and just saying thanks, but no thanks right now, and trust yourself and trust us. We're making the assessment. We've been observing you and giving you that feedback as well. So trusting the whole of it, of where you're at.
Yeah, exactly. Trust your sense gut is what I put in an email today, didn't I?
Yeah, it took me a bit to translate. But
right, have you got
good at that.
Any other questions? You all right? Or should I carry with us?
Go ahead.
Go on. Right. We were just saying that this was in Therapy Today. We talked about it's not a peer-reviewed journal. It's just like, it's just FFF, food for thought, right? But there's some things in here which I
grammatically
always like.
drives me mad.
So one of the things is how do you kind of manage to balance the sessions with your supervisees? It talks about here, there's like different elements. So one says here like you've got to be protecting standards and ethical practice. You've got to be developing the supervisee's skill and knowledge and understanding, right? And also attending to the personal well-being and resilience. So there's like almost like 3 things you've got to be doing in a session. How do you find that balance? And do you find that it's often quite equal, or is it more skewed another way? I know it would depend on each supervisee, but
I think so. For me, it's about when I first started, I was quite probably prescriptive with it. That it's like it's laid out in my contract. This is kind of the model of supervision I work towards, etc. And maybe suggesting I would expect my supervisee to come prepared to supervision, like process notes or reflective notes, or have some clients in mind. If it's a student, quite possibly all of the clients that they're currently working with. And so you're kind of laying out quite a lot in the contract.
Yeah.
And then, for an hour and a half supervision, I suppose in my mind, I've got half an hour almost for each part. But now I don't even really think of that. But that was at the beginning, just to make sure I did kind of cover, because I will always make sure I check, how are you as a person, what's going on. Because that's really important. If there is something going on in the therapist's life that it might be impacting on their client work, then it's important that I feel like could need to know about it if they feel comfortable sharing. If that then takes over the whole hour and a half, every now and again it might do. But I would say that is, again, when you build that relationship up with your supervisee, sometimes you'll be able to go, I think we needed that. If that happens all the time, again, it's that honest conversation of, have you considered your own therapy? Seeing your own therapist, or so it's being aware of it. It's kind of like I said, that helicoptering of being aware of the things we need to check out. I will always want to hear about client work. I will always want to hear about how the supervisee is, and probably naturally it will come into it. But any CPD, any books, but a lot of that would naturally come out. But at the beginning, I probably was quite prescriptive about it, just to make sure I was covering all bases.
That's interesting, because I suppose that could be a parallel with students when they're seeing clients. They might feel a bit prescriptive initially.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to make sure I'm doing it right, right? When we're really doing it right, just responding and reacting to the client's needs in the moment. So anything on that, Charlie, or not?
I suppose I'm similar as Emma as well. I suppose I practice as a supervisor very much as I practice as a therapist, and that I suppose is just meeting the supervisee's needs. So that can vary. But as Emma said, if something is taking a bit of a precedence, and it's a little bit, what do you call it, like off kilter. That's where like I bring in, so I do quite regular reviews as well. My non-negotiable, I suppose, with my supervisees is I kind of come with, right, what do you need out of today is my first question. But my first one really is any safeguard and any risk. That's my sort of, that is definitely takes priority. But then it's sort of like, okay, what do you need out of this session? What are you going to come out of it going, oh, great, I got exactly what I needed out of it, and something that will help me with my clients.
So. Good. And now back to that big E, the ethics. being the driving factor behind every single decision that we should be making.
Absolutely.
So I like that. Okay then. Are you any reflections on that, just from your experience as having a supervisor?
No, like you're in the moment processing and reflecting, aren't you? So forgive me if I've not articulated it well, but it was interesting to, I don't know if interesting is the right word, but it was just, I'm sat here thinking, like even, I mean, from the difference, I started to think, what is the difference? And I know there will be some slight difference between supervision with a trainee and supervision as a qualified, but then my supervisor starts with safeguarding, do you know what I mean? And that kind of really checking in with it as well.
Yeah.
And again, like, some supervision might feel slightly different to others, but still under that same holding, you know, it's not personal therapy. And what do you need out of this session? There might be, I really need to reflect on this client, or, do you know, they're all right. So I might, do you know what I mean? But that checking out, like you say, what are your needs? And this is something we talk about, and forgive me, because I know you might have discussed this on the last 2 podcasts, so I can zip it. But that even when you're starting to meet supervisors, you know, what do you want to get from it? What do you need? Is it that you're panicking how theory fits with practice? Is it like just self-confidence? Will it be reflecting on recordings, etc.? Having that, I guess, conversation with your supervisor.
Okay, great. Now, we haven't got much time left, but there's one thing. Wow. One thing I was interested in, because I mean, everyone has ever watched the film The Watchmen, which is about superheroes. There's always the question:
I feel like I'm the only one.
Who watches The Watchmen? It's like, who polices the police?
Right. Okay.
So your supervisors, you have to see a supervisor who supervises you, right? So I'm just wondering how that dynamic works. Obviously, very quickly, what's that process like? So.
Well, it's like we're the never-ending cycle, isn't it? Like we all have a supervisor. There is no one that doesn't have a supervisor. We all need supervision. We all need a place to speak, and it follows the same. I've learned a lot from my supervisor of how to be a supervisor.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, do you have the same supervisor for client work and for supervision?
I personally do, because my supervisor fits with the client work I do and the supervision work I do. If, for example, I worked predominantly with children, then maybe I would have a separate supervisor who predominantly worked with children, if there was a different specialism that my current supervisor hadn't covered. So,
okay. So there's like an extra layer in for you, because it's not just like you and your client work, it's also you and your supervision work.
Me and my supervision. So sometimes there's an extra supervision created that kind of in the month if needed, depending on my client load compared to my supervision load as well.
Okay, interesting. Charlie?
Same for me. My position is a little bit different, because obviously now that I'm doing the doctoral training, I need to have a counselling psychologist regarding that placement. But but regarding kind of my private practice with my supervisees and my clients, I'm the same as you. But you know, my supervisory supervisor is very, very experienced, worth a weight in gold.
Good.
And I suppose it's for me, it's about kind of like making sure that I've got what I've needed out of it, but also kind of making sure that I've got space for both as well, because sometimes client work might feel like, oh, I need all of this time, but that's when you can have extra supervision and get what you need.
And as you were talking before as well, I can't visualize, as you know, but like this kind of idea of a wheel, and it supervision, and it needs to be a smooth wheel, and if it's not, it's like a buckled wheel, and it feels like it's like, and if it's buckling, it doesn't feel right, so it needs to feel smooth. Don't know why I said that. It's a bit stupid, but what's coming into my mind?
Thinking as well, when you're for students searching for a supervisor, it's important that the supervisor that you perhaps, you know, to maybe meet a few, go with your gut instinct, but also maybe select a supervisor that has supervised students before. Because it is a different thing if because of the, you know, that you're having a 4-way contract with the university, with the placement. There's you know, we're there to hold you more in that as you're learning, and so the supervisor ideally will have had experience of that beforehand.
And sometimes there are, I was going to say, because it was just small things, like changes. Sometimes it's like, as we're under like BACP, it's like in my day, it was, even as a trainee, it was a month, you know, and same ratio. Obviously now it's fortnightly to be seen, but we still get some students that will say, oh no, my supervisor said it's definitely once a month, and I can see why, you know, that for some fee, but that can be quite confusing. So I guess having experience of being up to date helps, and for it to reflect your practice
Absolutely,
as well. Which I'm sure again has been.
And there's just like one last thing that Charli said about that. You know, your supervisor's worth a weight in gold. Find the right supervisor for you.
Yeah.
So do interview, if you know, if you can, a few, and find the one that you really gel with and fit with, because that's very important.
Yeah.
Okay then. Well, I mean, we've kind of run out of time, so I suppose this is the final episode of like you know, episode 3, part 3. So we'll have to wave to the audience, the listeners, and I'd like I just want to give a big shout out to Jack in the house still. Woo! Mariusz! Woo! Hey, this couldn't happen without Mariusz. Apologies again for the water. You know, Charli.
Thank you.
Boom.
Thank you for having me.
Emma.
Thank you.
Yeah. Niomi in the house.
Thank you.
Yeah. Me. Right. And then, most important of all, our students, Emma. So thank you. So I'm just going to play out now with a little bit of trumpet, and I'll play something jolly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll shut up.